What's going on, guys? This is Carroll from MyMMAnews.com and Carroll's Corner MMA podcast. Today, we're joined by Chris Miles, who'll be fighting Bob Buskey for the USMTA title at Cage Wars on June 29th. Chris, thanks for joining me.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you got into competing in the MMA circuit.
Yeah, so I'm from Huntington, West Virginia, and so I never really thought about competing in MMA, but I was a wrestler the majority of my life, and just so happens that I fought in a few tough man competitions down here in West Virginia and did pretty well, and I knew that my wrestling was really good, so I talked to a couple of friends, and we decided to start training for an MMA fight after we got one set up, and it's been off to the races ever since.
Awesome. And I see on your Facebook page you're also a wrestling coach. I assume you wrestled in high school, possibly college?
Yeah, both. So I wrestled middle school through college. Started wrestling in eighth grade, and then by the time I was a senior, I was a state placer already, and I won the state championship as a senior. Then I got a scholarship to wrestle at a Division II school, Ohio Valley University. It's in West Virginia, but it's in the Ohio Valley. So I redshirted my first year, and then I won the wrestle off my redshirt freshman year, which would have been my sophomore year academically, and then found out that my girlfriend at the time, she's my wife now, but we found out we were having a kid, man, and just decided to move home and start coaching. So it's off to the races ever since with that too.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the baby. Um, you know, tell us how since you've been a wrestling coach and a wrestler, how you translate that into being an MMA fighter.
Um, I don't know. I think wrestling is really truly the best base you can have for mixed martial arts. If you look at like the long list of UFC champions, the majority of them were wrestlers. So, you know, my striking is getting better every day. But I know that if I need to, I can always resort back to my wrestling. So
Mm-hmm.
it works out really well for me,
Now,
at least so far. So.
now you're fighting Bob Buskey, a guy who supposedly has great jujitsu. Is that going to be an issue for you? What are the challenges you see that he presents to you?
Uh, Not to sound cocky, but absolutely not, man. Honestly, I think that I'm going to beat Bob in 60 seconds or less. I've been saying it the whole time. It started out as a joke, honestly, and then Bob just kind of, ever since I accepted the fight, he has been messaging me, and if I post a picture of the fight or, a status about the fight or anything, he's commenting on it, and so I don't talk a lot of crap usually, but
Mm-hmm.
Bob's one of those guys that I don't mind to bring that side out of me a little bit, So I
Definitely,
think that
definitely.
honestly, I've watched all three of Bob's fights. He when they're announcing his name, he kind of gives you the death stare. I don't know what he's thinking about, but he looks pretty funny doing so, and then he'll sprint to the middle of the cage with his hands up and his head down. And I really picture that as he's doing that, I'll step to the side and throw an overhand right and then knock him out. If not, I'll take him down and beat him up or submit him, and then that'll be it. And maybe we can get Jeremy Woolfolk to accept the fight and go from there.
Awesome. That brings me to my next question. What are the goals you have for yourself in MMA in the sport, and then after the sport, after you retire and you hang the gloves up?
So I don't really know how long I'm going to fight. Honestly, like so far so good. I'm only 3-0 as an amateur. Not really too big of a deal, but at the same time, I've really surrounded myself with the right people. Ever since I was 1-0, I had a fight manager through TAC Management. Her name's Tammy Stone, and she's kind of guided me in the right direction. Set me up with the right people.
Mm-hmm.
I've surrounded myself with the right training partners, the right coaches. Um, so really, ultimately, I want to win. Go 5-0, and then start fighting professionally. I know there's some states that have some type of regulation where you may have to have a couple more amateur fights or whatever. But once I go 5-0, then we'll reevaluate and go from there. But yeah, so after I go 5-0, I want to start fighting professionally, and then eventually make it to the UFC is the main goal. Support my family through fighting, and I know it's easier said than done, but that's what we're shooting for right now.
Awesome, awesome. And now, is traveling going to be an issue for you? Like, I know a lot of people aren't used to traveling and then competing, but being a college athlete, you do travel as a college athlete to compete. So is this going to be an issue for you at all? Do you see it being one? Like, you get to the hotel room, bigger venue maybe that you've ever fought in? I don't know the kind of venues you fought in before. How would it be for you traveling?
Honestly, that's what I look forward to the most about the whole thing, just because I'm traveling and you kind of get to see different states and things like that. I've never from West Virginia, but never fought in West Virginia. I've had a few fights scheduled. They've all fallen out. I've had 4 or 5, man, and nobody just seems to kind of come through when you need them to. So my very first fight was for actually my manager now, but it was for A64 Fighting Championships in Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay, yeah.
So that's like an 8.5-hour drive for me, man. And then we go there and get in the hotel. We kind of get a workout in, get the weigh-ins, and we're good to go. Then my next 2 fights were actually on short notice. My second fight was 7 days after my first fight. I got the call. I won the fight. We went out, celebrated a little bit. Just got some food, went back to the hotel because we had to leave the next morning. I got the call from Scott Corbin. He's a matchmaker in Ohio for a few different organizations, because I'd been trying to get on a card there with them because it's a little closer to home. But he called me and said this guy's opponent backed out and asked if I wanted to fight, and I said sure. So took that fight on 6 days' notice, and then ended up winning that fight. That guy was pretty tough, actually. And then the fight after that, I was taking time off because I just accepted the job at this new school that I'm coaching at Spring Valley High School. Wasn't going to fight until after season. So Scott hit me up again. Was like, hey, man, this guy's opponent backed out. Do you want to fight? And I was like, damn, I haven't been training. No mid-session, no cardio. I've just been wrestling a few days a week with the kids at the high school. So I was like, 12, 13 days notice, something like that. I was like, sure, let's go. Took the fight, won. Probably should have won in the first minute or so. It was going my way. Then we kind of got in a scramble, and then went to the second round and won by TKO as well. So, last 2 fights were really short notice, but kind of came out on top. I'm just really used to that adversity, man. Wrestling is a grind, and I'm a grinder. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you get in there and fight Bob Buskey. Like I said before, you guys were going back and forth a little bit online. Does the trash talk really affect you at all? I know he's big into that. That's something he loves to do and get into. Did a lot of that with Beef Train before his last fight. Any thoughts on that?
No, man. So as soon as I accepted the fight, probably, I don't know, man, anywhere from 8 to 10 people were hitting me up on Facebook, through messengers, like, dude, fuck this guy up, man. We do. Am I allowed to cuss on here? Sorry.
Yeah, you could curse as much as you like on here.
Sorry, man. They're like, mess this guy up. We hate him. He's talking a lot of trash, and he's not accepting a fight with like Marconi or anybody like that. He's like, he's so scared. I'm like, all right, let's go, man. And then I don't know. It doesn't affect me. If he was talking about my kids or my wife or somebody, then maybe a little bit. But at the same time, my motivation would just be a little different. I'm not really going to go in there and try to hurt this guy because he's a family. But I really believe that I'm a better athlete and I'm a better mixed martial artist than he is. I'm a white belt in jiu-jitsu. I've probably had 5 jiu-jitsu classes in my life, and I'm pretty sure I could tap this guy out too. So
okay,
we'll see. I'm not trying to sound like an asshole and arrogant. I'm really not. I promise, man. It's just this guy has said so many things and just he sounds really goofy, and I don't think he knows. And I'm just like, come on, dude, you're crazy. So we'll see how it goes.
Now, take us through your training, your gym you train at, the coaches, and some of your fellow teammates that you train with.
Yeah, so my strength and conditioning coach is Steve Thacker. He's my cousin, and he knows a lot about strength and conditioning, and he kind of he's not only putting me through the workouts, but he's doing them with me. So it's like I'm not only grinding on my own, I've got somebody to feed off of as well. I've got other training partners like Gage Townsend. I've got he's a professional boxer here. Chris Brown, we kind of help each other out when he gets ready for fights. He's a pro boxer and MMA fighter as well.
Awesome.
Antonio Murphy, I've got so many people. Julian Perez is my head boxing coach. I cross train at a few gyms here and there, but my main gym is the Manos Duras Boxing Academy. It's primarily a boxing academy, obviously, but we'll get in there and we'll do some MMA rounds, and I'll cross train and do some jiu-jitsu and things like that. But all in all, man, I've got a lot of really good people around me. Yeah, man, I think we're really ready to go. If the fight was tomorrow, we're ready to go right now. So
cool. Like I said, I'm looking forward to this fight. Myself and Will Barry will be commentating the fights. Definitely a luxury for us because we get to see you guys put all your hard work in there. The culmination of all your hard work. What is something you would say to your athletes that you coach that you use and take into account when you get in the cage and fight?
Honestly, you really probably couldn't tell, but I'm really big on respect, man. My athletes know that they got to be respectful on and off the mat type thing, and that's why it's kind of, I feel like I'm contradicting myself a little bit because the way me and Bob have kind of handled this thing. But he keeps it up, and I oblige him by doing the same thing. But they're all going to be watching. Obviously it's an 11-hour drive from here to the venue, so it's not like they can go. But they're going to be watching, and they're just they're ready to see the fight too. You know what I mean? It's not like we've got a really good system where we're at. It's not like any of the administration or anything thinks it's a bad thing that I'm an MMA fighter. You know what I mean? So we're good to go, and they like it. I like it. Everybody's happy.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So what is one thing about you that nobody knows but you'd like to share with everyone?
I don't know, but since like Bob likes to hit on, I will say I'm a professional wrestler too, man. I've been a pro wrestler for a while.
Okay.
And it's just a hobby. It's nothing nothing crazy, but I do it about once a month now. I used to take it really serious before doing MMA. I really wanted to be a WWE wrestler, and kind of didn't work out. But so my kids love it now. Sorry, we have a party going on at the house, man, and people walking in.
No worries.
Anyway, so yeah, I've been wrestling for a while. I got the chance to wrestle a lot of really famous people, and I do it once a month now because my kids love it. You know what I mean? And it's in my hometown, so kind of it's more of just for their satisfaction than mine. I'm not going to get hurt doing it. I don't do anything crazy anymore. I know how to protect myself, so that's just kind of where we're at.
You have a pro wrestling name, like a nickname in pro wrestling?
Just Showtime, and the only reason is because in high school when I was an amateur wrestler, my teammates knew I did professional wrestling, so they're like, "Hey, here's Showtime, blah, blah, whatever." You know what I mean? So it's kind of just stuck, man. And I didn't really want to carry it over to MMA. I didn't really want a nickname. You know what I mean? I'm not really big on giving yourself a nickname, but whoever set up my Tapology page put it on there. And they also put Christopher instead of Chris. Christopher's my real name, but I was like, man, everybody calls me Chris, so it is what it is, man. So
I like that you said that you don't like giving yourself a nickname because a lot of these fighters, it doesn't matter who or where they show up with a nickname. They're 0-0, but they're the assassinator. I'm like, who have you assassinated? Or they're 0-3 and they're the murderer. I'm like, you haven't murdered anyone. You're 0-3. But I agree 100%.
Yeah, no, I wish I came up with the beef train, man. I'd use the beef train, So.
Definitely one of the best nicknames I've ever heard.
Yeah, man, I'm actually going to train with Travis probably on the 27th up there a little bit. We're going to come up a little early and hopefully get some rounds in with him and, kind of get the jet lag out of the way, be ready to go. So we'll see if we can get that set up. But, yeah, beef train's a pretty good one. So
awesome. Is there anyone you want to recognize, any sponsors you want to shout out to?
Yeah, I've got a couple of sponsors. Shield and Roofing out of South Point, Ohio. The Redmen Bingo Hall, it's here in Huntington. And then Big Time Pro Wrestling as well. They're out of Huntington as well. They're the promotion that I typically wrestle for. And then just, my fight manager, Tammy Stone at TAC Management. And, if I can shout out a couple more people, my wife and my 3 kids. And, if it weren't for those guys, then I really wouldn't be able to do any of this. If my wife really allows me to, I work 48 hours a week typically, and then I train about 3 hours a day, a couple practices. So it's like if she didn't support me, I couldn't do it, So
definitely.
I really got a good support system.
Yeah, support system is very important, especially in a sport like mixed martial arts. Chris, I appreciate you coming on to the Carroll's Corner MMA podcast. I want to shout out to my sponsors, Pure Spectrum CBD. Make sure you go to the link down below. Be in there. Click it. 10% off CBD products. Make sure you get it. Check it out. Also, if you want to get a little sticker, hit me up. DM me. I'll send you a sticker, ladies and gentlemen. If you want one, Carroll's Corner MMA podcast. I'm Kyle Carroll, and with Chris Miles, we'll be fighting on June 29th at Cage Wars 42, excuse me. Cage Wars 42. Make sure you get it. Schenectady, New York. They'll be streaming live as myself, Kyle Carroll, and Will Barry will be commentating the fights. So, Chris, best of luck in your fight, and thank you for joining me on Carroll's Corner MMA podcast.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.